Good evening. Now, if you would have told me 4 or 5 months ago that I'd have another one of these on my table in my possession, I would have said you're freaking crazy. But sometimes odd opportunities present themselves in life, and you just have to take advantage of that opportunity, and hopefully this one wasn't a mistake, but we'll see. What I've got on my table to show you tonight is yet another one of these. That's correct. This is an OS FF-320 Pegasus Engine. Now this just came in the mail today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of the backstory with it. This engine was introduced to the market in 1988. And because of the size and complexity and probably the expense of these things brand new, I think brand new these things list for between $2,100 and $2,500. Obviously that's not what I paid for this. But that's been a pretty consistent number throughout the years, I think. And because of that complexity and the tooling and the price point, I can't imagine that this was one of those really massively mass-produced engines. So I have no idea how many engines per year OS has made of these in the 33 years of production. But the one thing I can tell you is that this one, hopefully you'll be able to see it here, is serial number 0582. Now, in my estimation, if they made 150 a year, well, this just came off, that would be amazing. So that, if that's the case, if we were to use 150 a year, pardon me while I try and get this thing out of here. If they made 150 a year, that puts this at being a pretty damn old engine. Maybe 200. I have no idea. All I can say is the last one of these that I had on my table was serial number 1114. So that makes that one pretty old. Now, this box looks like it's in really good condition, and this will be the second time I've looked inside here already. Now, so that was a brief history of this engine and how long it's been in production, and it is still a current production engine. Now, the information I got from the seller on this is he had this listed at an extremely low price, and I fired a bunch of questions off to him because he didn't put enough information in there. But here's his response to all the questions that I asked. I asked things like, is this new or used? When did you buy it? How many flights or runtime does it have on it? Things like that. Does it have compression? You know, interesting stuff like that. Now, in the images, there were no exhaust stubs, stock exhaust stubs that came with this. And I asked him about that too. So here is verbatim his response to me, to my questions. This engine is from the estate of a friend who bought it about 10 years ago, who bought it new about 10 years ago and installed it in a 1/3 scale Balsa USA Ercoupe. It was flown about 4 times at a large scale meet only. The airplane was never crashed and now hangs on display in the Hiller Aviation Museum here in California. The airplane required the Kelio exhaust to clear the cowl. I don't know where the originals are. I observed it running the last time it was used and it seemed to run fine. There is no damage as far as I can tell. I think it's a good price for an engine that sells for over $2,700. And it is in the ballpark for other users, blah, blah, blah. Then he came back when I asked about compression. He said, I put a prop on this engine and it has no compression, so apparently the push rods, rockers, etc. are gummed up from sitting and it will need service. Okay. So the bottom line is here, we've already established it. This is serial number 0582, which makes this a very old engine. This seller tells me that a friend bought it new 10 years ago. And unless this engine sat in a hobby store, new in the box from OS for 10 years prior, or 8 years even, prior to the 10-year mark of when it was bought, that would make sense. However, I don't know. So let's just open this thing up and see what we've got here. We've got the original instruction manual, which is just held together with two staples. I'm not sure. I think later versions of this had a little bit better looking book. In fact, that's what makes me think that this is, obviously 0582 is a very early version because the way this manual looks. Now, it's not just copied and, cut and paste and thrown together, because it actually has page numbers on the bottom. So this looks like it is an official OS manual. However, if you look online, you'll find a much nicer manual, and I think it's actually more of like a book with a binding. But this is what came with it, so that tells me this is a very old engine. Like I said, 0582. So it has that, has the, looks like the instruction, or the decals have never been used, which is cool. Here's the engine itself. Now, let's go through some of the accessories first. Pardon me while I adjust my camera here. So, here's the little accessory toolkit. This is a little feeler gauge, the feeler gauges, some wrenches, and this is for valve adjustment. So, valve adjust toolkit is exactly what it says on here. These are the wires, stock wires, that don't look like they've ever even been cut here to be installed on the glow plug. So that's interesting. They don't ever look like they've been used. What do we have here? We have a spare set, or another prop nut set it looks like, and some screws, a big washer, and another prop nut, but it looks like this engine has a prop nut on here. What is this? This looks like some kind of a little plug of some sort. I don't really know what the hell that thing is. Ooh, whatever it is. The bag was open and it just fell out. I'm gonna have to go look for that. Let's see here. We've got engine mount, or the back plate mount. Over here we've got box end wrench 14 and 17. That's for the prop. Over here we've got a variety of other opened in wrenches and some hex keys. I don't know what the hell that was that came out of that bag, but they fell on the floor. So let's pull this thing out, move this aside. That box is weighty in and of itself. Okay, so now I'm gonna try and zoom in a little bit more here. And here is the engine. So, it smells like oil. I can't tell what the smell is. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but it does say 0582. Oh, there's those little pieces that came out. I don't know what the heck those are. I'm just kind of doing a general look over here. Look at screw heads. I really haven't taken a very close look at this thing at all. That's why I'm kind of taking the time to do that. So here's the prop nut that was already on there. So I don't know what that other one was. Maybe it's an inner nut that goes on there too. I think that's what it is. Okay, so we've got some carbon residue here on this exhaust. Let's see, does the carb open and close? Oh, carb is frozen up. So I would say in general, this engine looks its age. I mean, on this side, things look pretty good, pretty clean. None of the intakes are dented or dinged, but it really doesn't have any compression at all. On this side, I see some wear, paint wear here and on this cylinder that makes it look less than perfect, and I think I've got some glare that's showing up here as I look at my screen on the camera, so that's gonna make it look even worse on the video. I don't see any major damage here at all of any kind. I don't think. Look, just a little bit of paint wear here. So I'm hoping that I didn't make a huge mistake in purchasing this engine, because if I didn't, if I can tear this thing down, as I've done once before on my channel, replace all the bearings, get this thing in operational shape, I stand to make a pretty nice little profit when I go to flip this thing, which is exactly why I did what I did with this. One, it was fun to have another, it was be fun to have one again and run it, but ultimately this thing is gonna get flipped. So the questions I've got for any of those viewers or subscribers out there that are watching this, if anybody has one of these, please, if you can tell or if you can remember, take a look at yours and tell me what the serial number is of your Pegasus, and if you remember what year you bought it, because I like to try to piece together the history of these things. And like I said, this is a very low serial number in my opinion, and I don't know for sure. Maybe 150 a year is a good, maybe they did 1,000 in 2 years and then they didn't make any more engines for 5 years. I have no idea. I don't know what they would have done as far as making production versions of this, or how many they would make at a time. I have no idea. All I know is this is a low serial number. It doesn't really seem to jive up with the story that the fellow told me, but I did say something about Keelio exhaust. So this is the other thing I want to show you here. I'll put this kind of off to the side here. This did come, as I said earlier, it didn't come with the exhaust stubs, which kind of sucks because I really like the exhaust stubs. But it did come with Keelio exhausts. So let's see here, it would look like this. Actually, it would look like this. So there's one Keelio exhaust, and I think I'm pronouncing that right. One exhaust. Here's another set that came with it. Let's move this out of here so you can see this a little bit better. Now, I know that Keelio usually has their exhausts are black. This set here is silver. Or maybe it looks like what happened, it looks like whoever had this just scraped all the sanded off the black paint. So what I'm going to probably do with these guys is, I really don't have any kind of love for this type of exhaust. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure it works fine, but that just really doesn't do anything for me. My initial inclination for this is, I'm going to clean these up real good, at least this one, tape it up, and I'm going to repaint it with some high temp grill paint, and probably put these things up for sale and try to recover, get more of the costs that I've already put into this engine, which wasn't a lot to begin with. But if I can make this engine even less expensive, all the better. So what I'll end up doing is, instead of probably, selling these all together, I think I could probably sell the exhausts. I'll list them and see what happens. The fellow that sold this to me said he had several people contacting him just wanting the exhaust. So I'm going to use that as information and give it a shot and see what happens. I mean, I'm in no hurry. This could take months for me to actually get this thing going, because I've got to tear it apart, get bearings on order. I know what the bearing sizes are in theory according to Boca's website, but I don't trust Boca bearings for shit. So I'm going to wait until I get all the bearings out of here and measure them, and then order some bearings, get this thing put back together, and then we'll get some runs in on it. Who knows? Maybe I'll fall in love with it and keep it. If I can make enough money off selling these exhausts and some other engines that this becomes a wash, so be it. But then I'll always have it in my inventory, so that if push comes to shove, shit hits the fan for some reason, I can list this and still make a nice profit on it. So, next steps for this engine. Because it has no compression, when I first took this out in my room, I thought I felt compression on one cylinder, but I don't feel anything now. So what's going to happen with this next is, I'm going to load it up with 3-in-1 oil, and I'm probably going to go ahead, mount this on here. Hopefully the screws that are required came with it, otherwise I got to go buy screws. Put it on my upright and on my stand and heat the living crap out of it with a heat gun. Mount a prop to it and spin it over a lot with an electric starter and see if, I mean, it's going to require heat and oil anyway to start loosening things up. Why not do it while it's on the upright, and where I can spin it over by hand or use the electric starter, and that way I can test compression on each engine while it's mounted. I don't have to sit here and hold it and try and do this crap and put it on foam blocks or whatever. I can just work with it as much as I can on the stand as far as getting things moving. And then once I get things moving, then I can move on to disassembling this engine. Now, how much of all of that stuff is going to be shown and made videos of, I'll probably make videos of, but it kind of depends on the response I get from people on this video. If you're interested in seeing me mess with one of these again, even though I've already done one and there's several videos on my channel on it, maybe I'll try and fill in the blanks or fill in the gaps that I didn't show on the previous Pegasus engine as far as disassembly and stuff like that. And I'll try and fill in the gaps there so that we have a more complete overview of the disassembly and reassembly. I don't know. We'll see, because I go back and I look at those other videos and I'm like, wow, I didn't share, or I didn't take videos of this part, and maybe people are interested in that. I don't know. So in this instance, one of the few instances I'm actually going to solicit input and opinions on one of my videos. I'm asking anybody that owns one of these, please, number one, tell me, if you can, what the serial number is of your engine and what year you bought it and what condition it was in, especially if you bought it new. That would be very helpful. Two is, do you want to see more of this disassembly? What all do you want to see? Everything I do to this thing, or do you just not really care? You just want to see it and hear it run? Let me know in the comments, and I will do the best that I can. If I'm going to film every single step that I do, it's going to take a lot longer to do, because it takes longer to set up this makeshift studio in my garage in the heat and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so that's what we've got here. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. I know it's long, and I know I've been very long-winded, but I thought I had a lot of information here to share about this. So thank you for watching.